Here we go with round 1. We are on the draw. We're going to keep this. We have a mountain and a swamp, 2-drop, 3-drop, Boggbur Witch, and even Marauding Maulhorn. We can get the Cauldron, then Active Treason something. I really like this hand. Let's see what our opponent is bringing to the table. So, most likely we're just going to drop the Maulhorn if we can, but now that our opponent has already played a Tenacious Dead, things do look a little different. The Fire Cat gets worse, that's the first thing, and the Maulhorn gets worse as well. If we ever get a chance to just trade with the Tenacious Dead, we're definitely taking it. Oh, we have one of our own, which does mean that we are going to assemble Bubbling Cauldron, Tenacious Dead, which is just very good on its own. This is an interesting spot where we can attack, and then our opponent just pays the mana to get the Tenacious Dead back. And then he could potentially attack us back, which we don't really want, so I'm just going to decline here. The upside of attacking is that we do take his mana away, but it's just quite unlikely that he has a reasonable thing to do with his mana. That's a Colonian Tusker, a 3/3. I was expecting Rumbling Baloth, 4/4, but the Firecat is also great to trade with the Tusker, so no problems about that. Young Pyromancer isn't what we want right now, but we do want the Boggbur Witch to get the Bubbling Cauldron, and then things should get fun very quickly. Let's see if our opponent has any plans to make his Colonian Tusker more threatening. There's always the danger of a Troll Height just making a creature large and regenerating. Verdant Haven also giving our opponent potential splash colors, access to potential splash colors, but it doesn't look like any of this is happening. So now Young Pyromancer and Altar's Reap are already quite nice together. We still have 2 mana to get the Bubbling Cauldron, and we don't want to expose Tenacious Dead to a removal spell. At some point we might have to, but if we keep drawing spells at this point, we're also very fine. It's possible that our opponent drops something huge here. He's now reaching 7 mana, which is kind of the maximum that you go for in Limited. We did pass the statue, the Defender statue, which wouldn't worry us at all. This is also quite interesting. A 6/4 isn't much better than a 3/3 against a Firecat. So let's see if our opponent has anything else. No, he just wanted a better blocker, I suppose. Yeah, that's not the angle that we are playing on. So no land so far. We do have an Active Treason, which we could just use right now. There aren't that many cards that are better than a 6/4 in this spot. We don't have anything else to get with the Witch, which is really unfortunate. On the other hand, the Tusker is actually really weak against everything we are trying to do here. So I'm just going to drop my own Tenacious Dead, and that gives us the option to block with the Dead, gain 4 life, and still have Altar's Reap up if anything should happen before that. That way we are going to find out more about the contents of our opponent's hand. A Mountain is interesting. Tenacious Dead and Dark Favor aren't cards that you usually splash, so okay, that's really interesting. Opponent Active Treasoning Boggbur Witch could mean that he's looking to search his library for a Bubbling Cauldron, which we definitely don't want to see, or a Festering Node, which wouldn't be a problem, but I think I'm just sacrificing it. It has done its job, and casting Altar's Reap is actually gaining us another token, so I like that better than using the Gnawing Zombie. And we still have the Cauldron, so not much that we are losing here. Already a pretty good use of the Altar's Reap. It's interesting that we are drawing 4 swamps and 1 mountain. Okay, nothing happening here. Pitchburn Devils, that's also good. So we do need a second red here to get this going, but our opponent has 1 card and we have so many good cards in hand that I'm really not too worried. Could play Pitchburn Devils. I'm not sure if I want to tap out for that. We can always gain 4 if we keep open 3 mana with the Bubbling Cauldron. On the other hand, gaining life at this stage isn't all that interesting. It's a shame that Regathan Firecat can't really attack because of Tenacious Dead. So I'm just going to drop the Minotaur. I want to have the Pseudo Regeneration of the Dead available, and I still have a multiple sacrifice outlets up. And at some point our opponent either he has nothing, which is great for us, or he shows us the remaining cards in his hand, and it looks like that's what's happening. So this is huge. It's a Vastwood Hydra and it's 5/5. So this is going to be an absolute blowout with us taking control of the Hydra and sacrificing it. I think that's a pretty easy play to make here. This kills the Tusker on its own. This is attacking as well. We could get in with the Minotaur. Yeah, why not? We do have 5 counters here, so putting 4 on the Minotaur and 1 on the Firecat is an option. Don't like attacking with anything else, I don't think it's necessary. Just want to deal some damage. And if our opponent just blocks the Firecat with Tenacious Dead, then we have dealt some extra damage, so okay, that's even nicer. Yeah, now that I think about it, maybe attacking with the Firecat was a little bit greedy, but it looks like things are working out for us. Oh, let's see, it's probably better to use the Gnawing Zombie, because we are so far ahead that we just want to deal additional damage here. So hope that I don't mess this up. Do you wish to use the ability? Yes. Choose a creature. 3, 4, 5. 1 on this. 2 more on this. Looks good. Now our opponent plays 2 to get Tenacious Dead back from the graveyard tapped. But we have a 6/7 and a 5/2. We can attack with everything next turn. It almost doesn't matter what our opponent draws. We also have a Pitchburn Devils left to just shoot 3 damage. Liturgy of Blood. I'm not casting Liturgy of Blood on Tenacious Dead, but I'm not sure if I should attack with Young Pyromancer. On the other hand, if Tenacious Dead blocks one of our weaker creatures, that's 6 damage coming through from the Minotaur, so yeah, it looks like our opponent doesn't want to take that much damage. He's going to pay 2. Then we can drop Pitchburn Devils. We don't have to play around mass removal at this stage. Okay, that was game 1. Nice Vastwood Hydra we got there. And kind of like the Altar's Reap as an additional way to sacrifice something, although we weren't lacking in sacrifice outlets. our draw was quite nice. So yeah, I don't really see a reason to change anything. Demolish isn't really needed. Fire Shrieker isn't needed. We don't have any Death Touch creatures, so Fire Shrieker loses some of its utility. And so far, our opponent hasn't shown anything that we couldn't beat. Also like that we have the high power 5 drops and 4 drops. So I'll have to check if I actually put in more mountains than swamps. But this hand is really fine once again. We are on the draw, and we are only starting on turn 3, but then we have the Raiders if we happen to draw too many lands. Bogbu Ridge once again to get our combo, and then just some okay cards. Our hand isn't great against a turn 2 Colonian Tusker, but I don't think that you can build your decks or keep your hands to maximize that. It's just not something that you can actively go for. If your opponent has a very powerful green 2-drop that it happens to be 3/3, then you just have to accept it and take the damage. Verdant Haven doesn't bother me here. Maybe our opponent is going to accelerate into a 5-drop, but even that shouldn't be a problem. It's unfortunate to draw a Bubbling Cauldron here. Would have liked to get some value out of Bogbu Ridge. Speaking of value, I think that the draw discard or discard draw ability of Academy Raider is going to be quite valuable as this game progresses. We might be giving our opponent a chance to use Active Treason here, getting an additional draw step and then sacrificing the Raiders, but I'm actually happy if we get cards like Active Treason out of our opponent's hand without having anything huge that our opponent could steal. He does get some value here, but he also doesn't put anything on the board to threaten us with. Oh, he does. A Glade Clover Scout. Yeah, that won't be a problem, I hope. Let's see. I'm going to drop the Bogbu Ridge just because I'm willing to lose it to a trick, but our opponent doesn't know that we already drew the Cauldron, so he might think that the Bogbu Ridge is actually important for us. Okay, that's an enlarge. Glade Clover Scout is now an 8/8 and we have to block it. So far so good. We can't Chandra's Outrage the Scout because of Hexproof. The question is if we want to see if Molten Birth does anything or if we would rather have the Undead Minotaur. Don't think it matters all that much. We're kind of weak against Trollhide anyway, so I'm going to go with the regular creature if you want first. Now drop the Cauldron. We can still cast 2 Molten Births should we win the flip next turn. Opponent on 6 land, 6 mana, 2 cards, another red. Okay, it's Advocate of the Beast, not a problem. Okay, looks like there isn't too much going on. Firecat is pretty good. Well, pretty well stopped by our opponent's creatures. And one problem is if our opponent draws into Rumbling Baloth and we don't have Chandra's Outrage up. But I think we do have to advance our board here. So I'm just going to... Oh wait, now that I think about it, we do have the Pyromancer in our deck, the red Pyromancer. That makes it actually quite interesting to wait on the Molten Birth, as long as we know that it's not accomplishing anything. We do give our opponent the out to draw Rumbling Baloth here for 1 turn. The most conservative play would have been to just not cast the Firecat but that's worse if our opponent manages to threaten us with his next play. So I think it would be a mistake to play this too conservatively. Yeah, Academy Raiders would have done a good job in this game already, but now that it's gone, we can't really do much else. Firecat trades with the Scout, and Undead Minotaur gets stopped by Advocate of the Beast, which means that Molten Birth won't have a huge effect. Now, Chandra's Outrage could kill Advocate of the Beast, but then we would only be attacking for 2 against an opponent that went up to 28 because of Bubbling Cauldron. So I'm just going to play this conservatively, I think. Trading Post is pretty huge. Discarding a card to gain 4 is okay. Paying 1 to get a goat means that this is 3 life each turn. And probably won't matter too much that our opponent can get artifacts back, but it might be relevant. So yeah, that's just a lot of life. Oh, a lot of goats, but the goats don't matter too much. Oh wow, Shift's Embrace. Yeah, let's just go for that. We are losing the Firecat to Ring Flash here, but it's too valuable to deal the extra points of damage and have a good blocker in Undead Minotaur. One question is if I want to keep open the Cauldron in case our opponent has another active treason, because that would mean us taking 6 and our opponent being able to sacrifice it. Next turn I can keep open a black without a problem, without losing any damage here. Now let's see. I really don't think that we have to play around active treason, because it would still be bad for us. We would just be on a higher life total, but our hand isn't all that concerned with our life total. Like if we look at our hand and the board position, we see that it's actually far more important to beat our opponent, who is going to get at least 3 life return, maybe more. And even if we would take 6 here, we would still have Molten Birth and Bubbling Cauldron of our own to gain some of it back. So I think we are just not in any danger there. Corpse Holder gets back creature cards, and Val Rebirth removes them from the game, so that's actually pretty cool. A pretty cool interaction. I still don't think that we want to cast Molten Birth. I just don't see what it would do here. Instead, we are just going to deal huge amounts of damage. And then I expect our opponent to effectively gain back 3. Yep. Don't think that's actually faster, so probably shouldn't have done that. We deal 11 here, so opponent is on 12. Could easily go up to 16, maybe even 20, so yeah, we aren't close to winning this turn. I think that the utility of the Moorhorn is really, really low, given that there is goats aplenty on our opponent's side of the board. So I'm just going to decline playing that and continue with this instead. Okay, opponent is back up to 15. 8, 9, 10. No way. That's really unfortunate. Also interesting that he didn't wait for us to use up all our mana. Yeah, that's bad, but we can't really change it, so we go back up to 18. We need a new plan to defeat our opponent, given how much life he's going to gain. There's the young Pyromancer that we wanted to draw to go off with Molten Rebirth, also get more value out of Chandra's Outrage. So could actually see casting the Pyromancer here. Oh wait, attacking with the Minotaur doesn't really accomplish anything because there is goats anyway. But casting Chandra's Outrage on Advocate of the Beast is quite interesting, because if our opponent tries to get it back, then we can still use Vile Rebirth, and then we definitely want the young Pyromancer in play. I think for this turn we just go for the Maulhorn, though. It just seems like a sure thing on this board. Card that's going to definitely force our opponent to do something about it. And even if it's just making goats, this is still fine. Okay, our opponent didn't do anything at end of turn. I think making goats with trading posts is basically all upside, so he should have done that. Just going to play all my lands here. We could Chandra's Outrage the Advocate now, because that allows the Undead Minotaur to attack as well. Just going to do that. Like I said, we do want to deal some damage here. We can't wait forever to get things going. Oh, I think this doesn't even resolve, so maybe I should have. Maybe we should have waited until he used this to gain 4. Thought it would still deal 2 damage, which was wrong. Time for the goat. And if the goat blocks and doesn't get sacrificed by the Cauldron, then it's still fine. We've basically gotten something out of the deal. Looks like Corpse Solar has no interest in blocking, so opponent doesn't want the Advocate back. Now let's hope that we win the flip here for some more tokens. I'm going to call heads. I lost the flip. Yep. Okay, so it's only 2 elementals, which is sad because we do get the extra one, which means every one flip would have been a huge swing on this board. Giant Spider is also pretty huge on this board. Okay, yeah, I don't like playing into my opponent's Bubbling Cauldron like a madman, but I don't think that we have much of a choice, or I actually think that we do want things to go that way, because it's just so much better when our creatures are able to attack. We do give our opponent the chance to basically top deck his way out of this by spending our best removal spells on cards that aren't threatening us directly. He might just drop something that we can't beat, but I like trying to play this as aggressively as possible, especially because we have Vile Rebirth, and at some point Corpse Soul is going to be sacrificed to get something back, and then we get another 2/2, another 1/1, and so on. don't know if attacking with Young Pyromancer is feasible here. I think it's still too powerful. Maybe next turn. But I don't like trading it with Glade Cover Scout, I think. Yeah, this is sufficient. It's not like the Glade Cover Scout has much to do here. There isn't really a creature it's threatening, apart from just blocking like an elemental token. It's really interesting how opponent just doesn't want to sacrifice this. Oh, he tapped out. Sorry, yeah, he tapped out of his third mana. Okay, land isn't bad for us. Interesting also to see him play that. Well, I guess goats are somewhat better than gaining 4. No, it's actually similar. We are drawing quite a lot of mountains, so the Academy Raiders would have been great. That much is for certain. Once again, I could have attacked with the Pyromancer, but I'm still hoping that it's going to gain us more from staying back compared to trading with Glade Cover Scout. Okay, this is the point in time where Corpse Hauler blocks and should try to get back Giant Spider. The goat didn't want to block, and that makes sense because it has the power to prevent 5 on this board, and if it had blocked a 2-power creature, you would have basically given up some of that utility. But that was a pretty nice value rebirth here, giving us another elemental, another zombie, and okay, the goat just gets sacrificed, though, which is fine as well. Barrage of Expendables would probably be the best draw here, followed maybe by Act of Treason, because that would mean it doesn't matter what our opponent draws. I'll take a Firecat. Okay, that's it. We won the game. We just did better things than our opponent. Oh, that would have been nice as well. We also have a sweet Planeswalker. Let's see if we can get this to work in one of the later rounds. See you then.